Hello and welcome, everybody. I am Jay Fazette, the founder of JVology, the perfect mix of people, fun, and profit. And I'm here with my dear friend, another brilliantly named human being, Jay. Jay Rooke.
Hello.
How are you, brother?
Super stoked to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. And you can't see, but I'm sporting my JVology T-shirt for the interview as well.
Awesome. I would have worn mine, except I got it all soaked running 10K last night in the sun. It was a beautiful day,
Good for
or
you.
evening, I should say.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. Let me set the stage up because we're actually just back here. So this is season 2 of the JVology show. This is our second episode, and I am really fortunate to have my dear friend Jay Rooke with me. But for those of you who don't know, let me give you a little bit of framework and background. And by the way, I am sitting on my deck because in Canada, we get 3 days of summer. We just never know which 3 days it is. And so on this note, I am 100% taking advantage of it while I can. And I'm hoping that the internet signal is going to hold on strong enough. But for those of you who do not know, let me tell you a little bit about JVology and how we get to interview my dear friend Jay Rooke and his brand new brand called Gonzo Parenting. So first and foremost, JVology, the perfect mix of people, fun, and profit, is a community. It is a training organization. We run live events like JVology Live, which I'll put information in the chat here in a moment or two, like JVology Live. We do annual consulting and coaching programs like our program called Flow and Sail. We have digital programs to help people figure out how to really structure their business. And in essence, what we do is quite simple. What we do is we help entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, redesign their business model so that they have a steady stream of perfectly qualified leads for free through doing joint ventures and serving and supporting their clients better, and a recurring steady stream of passive income on the back end of their business, which takes a bunch of the ups and the downs out of the entrepreneurial journey and just makes it a whole hell of a lot more fun because we get to serve the clients that we care about in more deep and meaningful manners, and we get to do so with people that we care about and actually like, which we might be rounding up slightly in terms of our interview today, but we get to work with great people that we love. So here's what's going to transpire. I am going to play our little intro video, and then we're going to come back and Jay is going to tell us about this cool, fun, and amazing project that he has been working on and putting together, which absolutely rocks. So we'll be back momentarily. And of course, one of our core values is that we are better together, meaning that through collaboration, we can actually serve and support our clients better. We can have a better business. We can have way more fun. So on that note, Mr. Rooke, why don't you start with like the 5,000-foot view of who you are, what you're up to, and this fantastic and funny as hell new brand of yours.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with all of your audience today. And hopefully we can unlock some wisdom bombs for them along the way, most likely through learning of my own failings and mistakes made along the way to get here. So my name is Jay Rooke, everyone. I'm launching a new parenting brand called Gonzo Parenting. You can check it out at gonzoparenting.com. And basically, I've spent most of my life trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, and moved through a lot of careers. I used to be an attorney, had a restaurant for a while. I've spent about the last 9 years or so running a business and coaching practice. And what happened along the way is about 6 years ago, my wife gave birth to boy-girl twins. And that threw a whole wrench in the process. And I've been observing and reflecting and kind of storytelling a lot of the parenting journey along the way. And what I found for me was I was never more at peace or having more fun when I was storytelling and making other people laugh about what was going on in my own parenting journey, but also noticing the tremendous challenge of modern parents and the plight that we're in, and how there's a lot of old structures that aren't working that I think needs to get readdressed in order to get to where we want to go. And so that launched Gonzo Parenting, which is this community of parents. We just passed 1,000 members about 2.5 weeks in so far. And the
Awesome.
intention is to, provide a community where parents can get together, laugh at the absurdities of parenting, let go of that parenting shame or the thought of perfect parenting, and really just show up and support each other and get some laughs.
Love that. And you know what? I was such a stunning parent and an amazingly good parent before I had children. And then the kids came along, and that just totally screwed everything. So like, I want to put your URL in the chat. It's Gonzo Parenting, www.gonzo
Parenting.com. Yeah. And
perfect.
I don't think it's the www. I think if you just do straight up gonzoparenting.com,
Got it.
I think it's like HTTP, .s type deal.
Got it. CJ's work here. Okay, so this whole idea of perfect parenting, quite literally, we were just having this conversation. I took my teenager who's 15, my youngest who's 10, he'll be 11 in a couple of weeks, and the teenager's friend to Medicine Hat to work on a revenue property of ours. And we got talking about this idea of just how parenting has changed so much. And, I'm 54. I think you're slightly younger than I am. But,
44.
The honest to God truth is I had utter and complete independence when I was 12, where if we worked, for summers at my father's, like this is not an exaggeration, and it's probably a declaration of terrible parenting, but it worked, which was as long as I showed up for work, and me and my best friend Fritz worked at my dad's farm dealership. We worked Monday through Friday. Friday at 2:30, we could leave. And frankly, and we both had motorcycles, so we'd jump on our motorcycles and be gone. And as long as we were back at work Monday morning at 8 a.m., all was well. Then this is of course, pre-cell phones, pre any of those sorts of things. Like the amount of freedom and independence we had, so long as we did the job that we were supposed to do, was absolutely mind-boggling. Like I wouldn't let my 15-year-old spend a day and a half on his own because I'd be bailing him out of jail, I'm sure. But anyway,
Yes.
so I mean, this is a very alive conversation in our life and in our world. So just talk to me a little bit about this idea of gonzo parenting and how parenting has changed so much that makes this so important.
Yeah. So I really appreciate what you're saying, and I think if we think about it through the lens of technology, the amazing shift from our generation having the blinking 12 o'clock lights on the VCR clock to now having a device in our hand that recognizes our retinas and logs us in and out of everything and supercomputes the world. And I don't think it's particularly dissimilar to the parenting journey. And if we look at what was historically valued in parenting, it was about as helpful as that sort of industrial revolution type mindset worked in business now, where it's not working anymore. And I'm particularly struck by the lack of emphasis that we're making on emotional intelligence and helping our children learn how to navigate their emotions, and also for parents. And so one of the big things that I was noticing is, Jay, you shared this many years ago, which was how entrepreneurship is one of the best vehicles out there to unlock or identify rather the personal development work that maybe we might not have done yet. And I feel like
Maybe.
parenting, maybe, yeah, exactly. I feel like parenting takes that and 10x's it, and all of a sudden, whatever areas we might have wanted to be hiding from ourselves, our kids are amazingly good at pointing out and snuffing out. And I think I want to normalize that journey that needs to go on for most parents around. In order to become the parents we want to be, we've got to do that continued emotional development work to get ourselves healed at the spot we need to be parenting.
I love that. And I think what you do so well, and what I so love about your Facebook posts, your writing, the new comic strips, by the way, are freaking awesome. I just totally love that. And I read Calvin and Hobbes to my youngest every single night. That's his favorite. And so there's a style there that I just really appreciated that you chose to carry forward, which I truly love. But I do think, and this is one of those elements, is that in terms of self-discovery, there are sort of three core life areas that call upon us to see ourselves or run, which are our choice of partner or spouse, or even if we choose to have one, just to be clear. But there's our spouse, our children, if we choose to have them, and then our business. And in that order is that, and either you face yourself in those or you don't. Yeah. And if you face yourself, there's a possibility of it working out. And if you don't, it's going to be a shit show on wheels, no matter any way you cut it.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about your kids. And I don't know if I should bring this up, but I still love the story of your twins when they were really, really little. and the diapers in the furnace vents. It was like
Yes.
the way you wrote that was so spectacular. But this whole thing about kids and those sort of things is that you guys, let's be clear, you guys have it harder. Like in terms of twins, that is a I don't know how we'd have navigated that. So I mean, what's your belief around this this connection you've made between I've got to do my own personal work and the emotional work, but I can also have some fun with this and poke fun at both the absurdity and the beauty and the entertainment of children. Like, just talk to me about that link, because I think I'm probably guilty of taking parenting too seriously, and it's. Corey is good. My dear wife Corey is good at pointing out how I should just lighten the hell up. So just talk to me about that connection for a moment or two. Oh, and before you do that, gang, I just forgot. We promote this show all over God's green earth in terms of our different pages and those sorts of things. If you want to come to the page where we can actually interact with you and you can see links and all those sorts of things, just click on the video and it'll take you to the broadcast page where you can comment, you can say hello, you can ask Jay any questions, you can find the links that we're going to refer to. Just click on the video, it'll take you on over there. Now, talk to me about how you find humor in parenting and can lighten sometimes the daunting burden.
Yeah, so I think we both grew up, it sounds like, in more traditional structured of like authoritarian top-down families. My grandfather was a former Navy police captain type of thing. And so that sort of control and command was very much the impressed upon parenting style. And I think back to, I'll divert for a quick second here. I wanted to get my first dog in the early 2000s, and I wanted to get a Bernese Mountain Dog. And I wanted two, and the breeder wouldn't sell me two. And I was kind of pissed off. And I was like, why? I want to do two. She said, what happens with every single person is that dogs don't end up listening to the owner. They listen to each other, and the owner ends up giving them back, and it doesn't work out for me. I've seen it too many times. I won't do it again. Yep. So fast forward 25 years, I've got 6-year-old boy-girl twins. And what I'm realizing is, like, my top-down style, whatever it might be, I used to work as a correctional officer. I've dealt with mates. My 6-year-olds were owning my butt. And what it made me realize was this kind of laughable, I'm not going to win this game aspect around this, and realizing that I could either hold the line and, have whatever detrimental impacts that had on the kids growing up type of thing, and myself as well, who was going crazy, or I could let go and swim with them and try to navigate this as the river flows. And so for me, that was just the carve out around how do I escape the overwhelm and insanity of parenting and start to turn it into something that is fun and more playful. And for me, the rewriting of these stories and kind of redirecting the narrative and inserting the craziness of what's going on in the front lines, both was cathartic for me, and as it turned out, for a lot of people that have been following the work.
I love that. And honest to God, it is such a great reminder. I think particularly as we're getting into the teen years, like my oldest teenager, and I have to catch myself, is that he deliberately just says the dumbest shit in the universe to get my goat. So literally, like and it's like I just have to slow myself down, because I'll be working in the office and I'll hear a conversation going on, and then he'll say something like ridiculous. It's like, and so I like beller back. So, and this is Corey on the other side of this. So Wyatt's in the kitchen with Corey making cereal for breakfast, and he's making some dumb comments, but he's not going to do this, he's not going to do that, all the rest. So he says it, and then he looks at Corey and goes, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm like, rah, 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 rah.
Yeah, totally.
And then they're both howling. And Corey's like, don't take 90% of what he says seriously. He's screwing with you. It's like, yeah, I should know that. Yeah. Then of course he gets me again the next day.
Totally. 1000%. And then in those moments where I'm like, how are you so good at this? And then I'm like, oh, right, because you've been trained by me for the last blank number of years that you've been watching. And so, like, I'm basically raising my own worst arch enemies as they increase in skill level.
That's actually a really good way to put it. And of course, the flip side to that of doing personal development training for all those years, which, by the way, I don't care how much personal development training you've done. You haven't done shit until you have kids. Just to be perfectly clear about this, I don't give a rat's ass who you think you are and how you think you've got it nailed. You raise kids and then we'll have a different conversation. But I swear to God, the other side to that is, of course, people would come into the personal development world and always have this thing. It's like, well, my parents drive me crazy. It's like they know all of my buttons. It's like, I know they know their buttons. They put them there. They know
Yes.
exactly what they are. Like, this is not a mystery that your parents make you batshit crazy. They installed your buttons.
Yes.
But that is a two-way street. There's no question about it.
100%. And it's
So,
interesting as well. I was speaking of that personal development style work. I was trying to tell my kids no around something and some level of control. I forget what's going on at the moment. And I was talking to my personal coach about it. And he said, well, isn't that interesting? He said, we spend most of our time together helping you figure out how to manifest and make things happen. And here your kids are already doing it, manifesting and making things happen. You're trying to know it out of them. And I was like, oh, interesting. And, starting to think about how do we start to raise our kids from that more progressive standpoint that we know in our own intellectual minds. But like you said, it gets pulled out of us in the moment when those trigger things occur.
it's absolutely true. So talk to me a little bit about the community. So your community's just grown over 1,000 people in a very short span of time. Congratulations. That's outstanding.
Thrilled. Thank you. And yeah, and so I think if we talk about even in JVology speak, one of the big things that came up for me was noticing how much, as the joking saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child, and also takes a village to raise a business in many ways, and how to come together with community to start to make that happen. And so what I found was, although in my prior iterations of being a business coach, I was working on building a different type of community and more selling products and services. But this time around was more unfiltered, straight from the heart, Jay. And amusingly and probably not surprisingly, that resonated much more with my community, and folks wanted to see more of that. And so I would say if there's an advice point for JVology potential members, it's just starting to pay attention to who those people are that are already supporting and liking what you're doing, and how do you be more of yourself to draw more of that in versus trying to be somebody that you're not and go for bigger deals.
I love that. And the other part to that I think is interesting is, and we talk about this a lot, is that lots of times we get, and this is certainly true for me as well, that we get really attached to the thing we want to do. I want to own a restaurant, or I want to bring personal development to the online world, or I want to, I was having this conversation, or I want to coach and help teams. And yet it's not necessarily what the marketplace wants from us. And you were one of our, I'd say, earlier members of our Mastermind to Millions community, and that was that entire community, and which was one of my greatest online successes. I deem as an accident. Well, it wasn't really an accident, but I deem as an accident because I ended up selling something that I wasn't interested in selling. It was just the demand kept coming and coming and coming. And I was like, well, maybe over time we should listen to this demand. And as soon as we did, it was like, boom, we went from $0 to $2.6 million in 14 months, primarily with joint venture partners that I couldn't have bought if I was just talking about personal development work. It's just a really crazy, interesting thing.
Totally. And to your point here, I was trying to make outbounds and prior iterations to get JV and affiliate deals going, and with limited success along the way for a variety of reasons. And then I step into this a little bit more fully, and offers have been coming out of the woodwork around, hey, come on my podcast and do this. Come on my show, let's talk about this. Hey, I'd like to introduce you to this network. And I go to your point around. There's just something about once we're paying attention to what the market's asking for and seeing where we are in alignment with that, that just makes everything the difference.
Totally. Okay, tell me, in terms of all of the stories, because I've been reading your stuff for a long time. So tell me, what's your favorite sort of, I was going to say, a bit of irony / story in terms of raising your kids, and what it sort of has turned into for you, and what it means to you, like why that one out of all of the. By the way, I love the fishing story. Just on a little sidebar to that, because I went fishing. We spent our summers at this place called Lemsford Regional Park, and for the time I was like 5 years old to the time we moved, which was 12, I fished in the goddamn South Saskatchewan River every single summer. And I never caught a single fish, not one effing fish. There'd be people walking back and forth holding their fish. Anyway, I just howled at that.
Yes, totally.
Anyway, what's your favorite story and why?
Right. Okay. So, two come to mind to me. So one was it was at the end of a very long day, and everyone else had eaten. I hadn't eaten yet that day, and my daughter's on my lap, starting to fall asleep, and I've got a bowl of pasta that I'm trying to eat, but not move her too much so that she stays sleeping. And I'm twirling and taking bites, and I'm just kind of, just reflecting on all the craziness of parenting and what a wild journey this has been, and am I enough of a dad, et cetera. And so I started to eat the pasta, and I'm furious at myself. I'm just bullshit. I'm like, how do you screw up pasta, Jay? Like, you've been cooking for 20 plus years. Like, this is inedible. It's stringy. It's disgusting. And then, like, on top of the heap that I'm already beating myself up with around parenting, now I'm jumping on myself about not knowing how to cook. And all of a sudden, my daughter
Says
wakes.
past restaurant owner, just for the rest of you who weren't tracking all of that.
Totally right, yeah. My daughter stirs for a second, and she goes, "Daddy." I go, "Yeah, what's up, monkey?" And she goes, "I think you're eating my hair." And so what was going on is I was twirling her hair in the pasta with the fork because I was eating in the dark, trying not to wake her. And so that's one that comes to mind for me. And I think the other one will probably be the Dolly cart story, which probably doesn't translate well to retelling without video. But I think it's the stories that end up being the most meaningful to me end up being the poignant ones that flip things on its head, that where the universe kind of says, "Oh, that's cute. You thought you knew what you were doing. That's so amusing. Like, let's do this now." And so I think one of the things that I'm appreciating about the parenting journey more and more is being vulnerable and standing in the not knowing and the not control of things, which the kids really respond way better to, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
And learning to reveal that process. I saw a great meme the other day that said one of the ironic parts about being a child is that you're unaware that you're watching your parents grow up at the same time. And
Mhm.
that's some debunking that I'd love to do with our children as a society is, hey, we're not perfect. We don't fully know what's going on. We're going through our own journeys too. Here's how to do it with us, type of thing.
I love that. That story just reminds me of probably one of my and God, they got a lot of mileage out of it. So we were it was one of my when I first started traveling to the U.S. actually to work on creating joint ventures, and I was actually at Christian Michelson's joint venture summit, and there was this after hours event that I hadn't originally planned on going to. Family was going to do something, but it's like, you know what, I really want to go to this. So anyway, we're in this rental car, and Corey's trying to find this restaurant to drop me off at, and the boys have had a full day, and they are in the back, and they're just being turds. Like, they're just being turds, particularly the older one, just poking and bugging the other one. And so I feel a little bit bad about leaving Corey with the crazies. So I get out of the car, and I'm trying to talk to the boys about, so listen, just please cooperate with mom, da, da, da. And they are just like totally not there. It's like I'm talking to the air, which is like, it's like at our house, if you didn't pay attention when the parents talked, like shit was about to hit the fan. Anyway, so I'd say, boys, pay attention, boys, pay attention. And then finally I lose it. And I'm like, boys, look at me and be quiet. I am getting very angry. And so they look at me, and there's this little pause, and Wyatt, the oldest, mimics me. That goes, boys, I am getting very angry. And then the younger one is like, I get very angry. And honest to God, for 3 years, if ever I was starting to lose my temper, they would make fun of me. It's like, ooh, that's getting very angry.
Yes, totally.
And honest to God, it was impossible to remain angry in that circumstance. But it was like
Yes.
they were just it was like, good for you. Who cares? Let's make fun of the weirdo who's having a little
Crazy
tantrum.
guy. Yes, yes, totally. And I love those moments. At least it sounds like they had a few years on them. But I think I speak for all parents when all of a sudden you find yourself arguing and yelling back in a temper tantrum with a child that's less than 5 years old, and you're realizing, wait a minute, what have I gotten myself pulled into here? Like, hit pause and
Yeah,
yes.
and the youngest was less than 5, and the oldest would have been about 6 or 7,
Okay,
something
there
like
you
that.
go. Yeah.
Like
There you
they
go.
were right in that age range, and it was anyway. It was quite spectacular and beautiful.
Good time.
All right, so here's how can people participate? Because here's the long and the short of it: is that, gang, if you haven't already caught this, I'm going to summarize 3 things that I think are really, really significant and important. Number 1 is this: if you're a parent, okay, I'm going to go on a little rant here, Jay. You feel free to tweak and adjust me.
Please.
If you're a parent, most of you probably got bullshit advice and a bullshit romanticized version of what it meant to be a parent. Like I totally remember like when we had our first, and it was like we were like, holy crap, and going and talking to our dear friends Glenn and Lisa, who at that stage of the game already they just had 2 kids at that stage. And it's like, when we asked you about this, you didn't tell us the truth. And they're like, yeah, well, we didn't want to scare you off. It's like,
Yep.
I wanted and needed the truth. So I really genuinely believe that most parents, and I mean this in all seriousness, are completely full of shit about what it really takes, how difficult it is, how taxing it is, how challenging it can be, all those sorts of things. And above all else, we need a community that tells the truth, give me my finger, tells the truth, shares the reality of, sort of being in the trenches. And that might be a terrible analogy, but you know what I mean. And if we can have some humor and personal evolution around it, that goes far, far, far more significantly. And that to me is exactly what the Gonzo parenting work is. That is what Jay stands for. And God knows if you have kids, we all just need I'm looking for the right term. I was going to say a commiserating ear, but like an understanding and a perspective from somebody who's been there and done that, willing to tell the truth. Anyway,
Yes.
and so that's my perspective. Is if you're in that boat, you got to join Jay's community.
Perfectly summarized. I really, really appreciate that, and that's what's already organically starting to play out in the community. I feel like sub age 5 and then teenage years seem to be the toughest ones that I've spoken to with everybody.
Surprise.
Yeah, right. Totally. And it's fascinating watching like the grandmothers in the group chime in and, honey, it's going to get better, or, hey, this is the spot where it gets better at. And I think you're spot on. I want to go back around, let's be honest. We all lied to ourselves if we became parents, because we all heard all of those conversations leading up to it where you would ask new parents how it's going. Hey, how's it going? And they'll say, well, like, I haven't slept in a few weeks. I don't exercise anymore. My back hurts. The house is an absolute disaster. I'm falling behind at work. Um, we love it when we wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. They always end it that way. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And after hearing 500 of those, I should have like trusted enough that it's a rough ride ahead. But that's how they always would close it. So yeah, no, great description of the community. And basically, the play is going to be, as it relates to a JVology type outlook, is grow the main community as much as possible. At some point in time, have some type of a nominal, $5 to $10 a month paid membership type of community, and then trying to work in JV and affiliate deals for those that market towards parents in the thick of it.
I quite love that. I think that's a brilliant idea. And I have no idea if this is on your radar or not, but it just occurred to me when you said this. And this may not be one of the first things, and perhaps it's even another conversation you and I should have. But one of those associations and affiliate deals that I think would be really, really significant would be some work around sexuality and parents' intimacy and those sorts of things, because I really do think that is one of the most, like, through all of the beauty, the challenges, the humor, all those sorts of things, one of the things that I know Corey and I paid with most significantly, and it's really quite astounding, the sort of the confluence of COVID, no travel, the boys getting a little bit older, us having some, real heart-to-heart breakthroughs and recommitments at our 25th wedding anniversary and those sorts of things that really changed things. But in looking back, it's clear to me looking back that it was kind of like the boiling frog. It's like you don't see that the price being paid there as much, because frankly, if you're exhausted, it's like you're exhausted. I remember us when we had Jackson particularly, because Jackson, he was practicing to be a rock star, which is sleep all day and stay up all night. And so we didn't sleep for probably 2 years. And I remember being in bed, and it's like, it'd be really nice, to have some connection. It's like, yeah. She says, yeah. And then we'd both say, great, you start. It's like, if I'm ever that tired where I want you start, it's like, we got troubles. Like, anyway, right. There's a ton of work there that I think, in terms of strengthening the parental relationship, that just translates directly to strengthening the relationship between the parents and the children. Anyway, food for thought, which I'd love to talk with you more about, because I think that community that you're building and engaging at that level of honesty and clarity is going to turn out to be a pretty spectacular spot for people.
I agree, and we're doing monthly themes for the community and the podcast, and so that's spot on. going to be one of them. And there's also just so much humorous material to mine there, as well as the serious stuff about how it changed it. And we were joking about how some friends and I talking about how for my wife, COVID must have felt like living in a brothel, but it's not some nice high-end brothel where there's classy johns that have money. It's like me waking up and all oakley in pajamas and haven't shaved for weeks, and all the the COVID weight gain, and being trapped with your spouse for 6 months.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of great metaphors there. Anyway, brother, so where should they go? What's the best place for them to start? Is it Gonzo Parenting? Is the Facebook group? We should probably put the Facebook group link in as well.
That'd be great.
Or,
So the Gonzo Parenting group kicks to the Facebook group, and let me pull up the URL of the Facebook group. But yeah, that'd be great. Appreciate that.
Great, and of course we can. Krista's like, "Hey, Jays." That's funny.
Hey, Jays.
Hey, Krista. That's funny. Yes, that would be awesome. So we'll put those pieces in. And honest to goodness, gang, what I want you to just really keep an eye on is support for parenting, support for the kids, support for a variety of those pieces. And Jay's group is a perfect place to do so. All right, my friend, I'm going to get back at it here. We got some sunshine, and I want to get a bunch of additional work done, and I got to get my two boys off their screens and doing some actual physical work today.
I understand that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on, and thank you to all of your listeners that tuned in. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, take care. Talk soon.